What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Tuesday, talking about some NFL news and how that could affect Titans quarterback Will Levis down the road as Lions QB Jared Goff gets a massive contract, not a record-breaking contract across the NFL, but a record-breaking contract for the Detroit Lions franchise. We'll go over that, the new standard of quarterback deals. So Jared Goff gets a bunch of money. What does that mean for Will Levis and his quest to be the Titans franchise quarterback going into his second year? And what does he need to prove in 2024 to keep pace to potentially earning a massive quarterback contract from the Titans in the coming years? So we'll dive into that, the details from Jared Goff, kind of the stats and what Jared Goff has done in Detroit the last 3 years to earn this contract. And really, is Jared Goff somebody that can get the Lions to the Super Bowl? And I'll compare Jared Goff and what he's done to a quarterback that we know very well here in Nashville. And so we'll talk about Will Levis, what he has to do. Zach, you've got something up your sleeve that I'm not sure about with this conversation too. And then it's a Tuesday, which means we'll throw shade. And I don't know, Zach, I threw shade a month or so ago. I might have affected change with my shade. Somebody was listening, but my shade has been changed.
It's a non-shade?
Yeah. Like I complained about something. My complaint has been heard by somebody and fixed. So I will talk about some good news shade later in the show. So what's up? Let's get it going.
There you go. A lot to get into today on this Tuesday morning as we talk a little NFL quarterback landscape as money is being dished out as they make more money, right? You make more money, you pay more money. That's usually, how it goes. We are broadcasting live on 3 different platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and keep us locked in right there. We will tweet out link by link our Twitter timeline at A to Z Sports. That's at ATOZ Sports. You can follow us right there on Twitter/X. That's a great way to interact with us. If you are on YouTube, that is the best way to get a part of this live streaming show. And the live streaming show comes to you if you subscribe, you like this video, and you ring the bell. What does that mean? Well, subscribe by going to YouTube, searching A to Z Sports Nashville. It's as simple as that. And then also like this video. That helps the algorithm get more people involved, which is valuable. When it comes to the chat, as we interact with you guys throughout the course of the show, and ring the bell, that means live alerts. When we go live, you guys get notified. And it makes it a lot easier on all parties. That includes morning show and prime time in the evenings. Facebook, what's going on? Facebookers, bottom left corner of your screen. Share, not a public. Sharing is caring, and caring is sharing, as we say on this show. Share the show around, and we will get this party started on a Tuesday very shortly.
Yep, let's get it going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham, and we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Link by link, segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. That's at A to Z Sports. And also hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. Got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us and they help out all of you. Like Wilson County Hyundai, make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see them in Lebanon or online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org. The region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. And Farm Bureau Health Plans get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans. It's better coverage, rates, and service. Get a quote today by checking out our link, fbhp.com/ATOZ. So, Zach, in a weird way, I feel like we haven't talked enough about Will Levis this offseason. There's been so much that's gone into this offseason. New head coach, obviously, for Will Levis. Rand Carthon spending a bunch of money, some of the most in the NFL, to bring in key veteran players. The draft with J.C. Latham. Obviously, all these things are connected to Will Levis, but I feel like we haven't had super specific conversations about what we need to see from him in 2024, his second year in a Titans uniform as the quarterback. Do you feel the same way, or is that just a me thing? Like, I'd be curious how you feel about that overall, the lack of detailed conversations about what Will Levis has to show this upcoming season.
Well, I think it's because you just got a taste of Will Levis. You didn't get the whole bite. We truly don't know what Will Levis is. We saw some good plays, we saw some bad plays, and we saw 2 injuries, right? I mean, and he didn't essentially, at the end of the year, didn't finish the season. They were playing back and forth with Ryan Tannehill and Will Levis because they were forced to, because what did they go do? They drafted an offensive lineman because they couldn't protect their quarterback. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why whatever quarterback it was that was going to play this upcoming season, they had to go spend money, right? And they spent money on everything besides the quarterback position. I mean, Mason Rudolph in that sense, but like, I think it's because we didn't see him from when he began as a Tennessee Titan in the Oilers blue against the Atlanta Falcons all the way through. There was some ups and downs. There was some question marks. There was some hobbles, right? And he played through that ankle injury, and then it ended up, setting him down for the season. I think what we did see from Will Levis is got a big, strong arm, quick release, competitor, leader, wants to win, will do what it takes to get a first down. But the big question about Will Levis is, can he make the correct reads on time within the offense, check down when necessary, make the big throws when needed, and don't get himself hurt. Half of this is the Titans kind of hurting their quarterback, but the other half of this is we saw him twirl in the air John Elway Super Bowl style at least once. That cues in my mind, you got to learn that you're the most valuable resource on this team. And so I think there's a lot of still question, can he do that? Can he mature in year 2? And it's more like a mystery than talking about him, because I just went through his whole season, right? I mean, sure. In every facet, right? So there's mystery.
There is, and we'll see him next week. The Titans veterans and rookies will be on the practice field over there at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park for an OTA session, and we'll see him with our own eyes going into year 2 and what that looks like after what we saw for his rookie year. But so much has been done around him and setting up Brian Callahan to be the guy to unlock him. Then we get the NFL news that came out yesterday of Jared Goff getting a massive deal. And I've talked all my smack about Jared Goff not believing in him when he was an LA Ram after being the number 1 overall draft pick. I thought he was extremely mediocre is what I used to call Jared Goff. Well, this extremely mediocre quarterback that has been playing with the Lions the last 3 years and just went to the NFC Championship game and lost to the 49ers, just got a massive deal because in a 4-year, $212 million contract extension, $170 million guaranteed per Adam Schefter. Goff now goes from number 1 overall pick to the highest paid line in franchise history. Zach, that is an average of $53 million Jared Goff on a 4-year extension from Detroit, only trailing Joe Burrow, who got a contract last summer at $55 million a year. But Jared Goff getting an average of $53 million a year. What was your reaction when you saw that contract come out yesterday from Detroit?
I mean, time moves on, right? When as I said to start, the NFL is making more money. The players are going to make more money. It's just like the NBA. I don't get, I don't want to say upset, but like there are guys in the NBA making $15 million that should never be making $15 million for what they actually do for their team, right? Jared Goff is not necessarily in that bucket because he turned the franchise around. I think some of this payment is because it is Detroit. Now, industry standard leads this conversation.
Sure.
But what Jared Goff was able to do, and probably the money that he was able to make the city of Detroit, the franchise as a whole, he made other players on the Detroit Lions much better, right?
Yep.
And put them in the limelight, leading them to an NFC Championship game. Impressive. But we got to remember, Jared Goff was a number 1 overall pick. Look, we say a lot of takes on this show. You said Jared Goff was going to be bad, wasn't going to be good.
Extremely mediocre.
He he proved that incorrect, right? Like
Yes.
he figured it out. Now it took some time, but Jared Goff's been to more Super Bowls than a lot of quarterbacks around the league, like Josh Allen. You see what I'm saying, right? He didn't win the Super Bowl, and he got one game away. So to be in multiple NFC championship games or championship games, conference championship games, that's impressive in his own right. I thought that he earned this contract. And you know what? It's also not a mega contract in the sense of it's 7, 8, 10 years, right? They're not hitching their wagon. But look, they could have made this thing a 6 to 7 year deal with outs. But I like how what they did was they rewarded Jared Goff for doing what he was asked to do when he was traded from LA. And that was bring the Lions back, or I don't even say back, but to relevancy, right?
Yeah.
So that was earned, not given, but it is a high price, but that's the cost of living. Cost of living here in Nashville, I may save this for my shade later, is ridiculous, right? You look at $1 million house that looks like a shanty. It doesn't make any sense. What are we doing? Jared Goff at least looks a little bit of the part. Is he worth 50 plus million? That could be questioned, but that's the cost of living.
Right. So let's think of this. Jared Goff will turn 30 years old in October. And so that a 4-year deal, he'll be 34 when, I guess 33 when that contract expires. So I think that's where the length of that deal comes into play, of not being a mega contract for $7 to $8 million. But he also has another opportunity to cash in at 33 going into 34 years old, which is not rare for quarterbacks these days. Hell, Kirk Cousins just got $180 million with 100 guaranteed going into age 35 off of a torn Achilles. So Jared Goff has an opportunity to make more money on top of it. And he's really been phenomenal. I know you're looking something up. I was going to switch gears, but I don't want to jump the gun because it sounds like you got something on your mind.
Well, I wanted to, and this is where I was trying to make sure he'll be 34, about to be 35 when the deal is done officially.
No.
30, because of his birthday?
32, 33. Yeah. So he will be 33 years old when the contract expires, going into year 34. His 34th year old season would be 5 years away because his birthday's in the middle.
That's why I'm looking at this right now. That's why I looked it up. Is in 2028, he will be 34 years old. So he will be an undrafted, unrestricted free agent in 2029 and this is, look, Spo don't always know, but I'm looking at it right now, and it says he'll be 35 years old in 2029 as he enters that season. That's why I'm telling you.
Okay, well, I guess you're correct because he still has 2024. He's technically playing on the last year of a contract.
And I had proof. That was the only reason why I knew I was correct, because there was research. Well,
so he's under contract for 5 more years. The 4-year extension doesn't kick in until 2025. I guess that's the key thing here.
To go back, because that's why I was doing that math while you're speaking. So for what I was saying is they could have extended him even longer. I mean, quarterbacks these days, they play a lot longer than, your normal quarterbacks in the 90s, right? So they chose, I think this was the right decision for Detroit. I don't think you want to hitch your wagon too far along, right? Because you never know what's going to happen. Could fall off the wagon, could drop off, who knows? A lot of things. Let's just face it, the NFC North is getting better. The Bears on paper look really, really good. I don't know what they're actually going to do. The Packers are starting to build something new with some young players and young talent. So you've got that. And then the Vikings just got a brand new quarterback with a pretty good roster. So we never know what's going to be in 4 years when he actually does turn 35 and he's got to make that decision. But I think this made a lot of sense for the franchise and the player for what had been done over the last couple of years, because it wasn't just last year's Cinderella season, right? And Cinderella being, the Lions were predicted to win the division. They weren't predicted to go to the NFC Championship game. So can he replicate that as like the AFC South? The division is getting better. Competition, new quarterbacks are coming in. how does that play out?
Yeah. So Maven on YouTube asked a question that kind of takes us to our question. If Will Levis is above average, what will he get per year? Right. And I think that's where we're trying to get to is what does Will Levis need to do to keep pace towards earning that big contract at the end of his rookie year? So let's go ahead and dive into that. And we'll ask that question. What does Will Levis need to show this season to keep pace for a big NFL quarterback contract? Because it's year 2. He had that 9 games as a rookie, a lot of ups, some downs to go in with it. Couldn't finish the year with the bum ankle. What does Will Levis need to show this season to keep pace for a big quarterback contract? We'll get to all of your thoughts and opinions on that. But first, I'll tell you guys about the Bone and Joint Institute. Zach, I go see the Bone and Joint Institute tomorrow because I got a little knee issue that I've been nursing and trying to get through for the last 6 weeks or so. Booked my appointment a couple weeks ago with the Bone and Joint Institute to fit my schedule, to go to fit my doctor's schedule as well, to check out my knee because I know the Bone and Joint Institute can help me out. I've been limited with some exercise. It's been bothering me now in daily life as it's gotten deeper. And so try to make some altercations there with some things, but it's time to get it checked out and doing that tomorrow in Franklin at the Bone and Joint Institute. boneandjointtn.org is their website. It's so easy to use. You go on there, you click make an appointment, you type in or click down the drop-down menu, knee issue, and then it sorts the doctors who do that, and then it finds the opportunity to fit your schedule and their schedule to the best of their ability. I chose this week because it fit my schedule the best, and it was easy for me to do. Right there in Franklin off of I-65 and Highway 96. They've got everything under one roof. The clinic, the experts, the surgery center, the testing, the rehab is all right there. They've also got facilities around Williamson County for rehab and other clinics there too. For your convenience, you can check them out online. Once again, boneandjointtn.org.
A to Z Sports, we are powered by BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports. That's ATOZ SPORTS, all one word for new users. The king of the sports book had really good game last night. Oklahoma City, Dallas, OKC ties it up at 2-2. Cleveland could not do that against Boston, even though a valiant effort. And that's some hockey games that got series a little bit further along. So you got baseball, you got all opportunities to make a little cash with BetMGM. Download the app today.
All right, so what does Will Levis need to show this season to keep pace for a big quarterback contract moving forward in the NFL as Jared Goff gets $53 million per year on average, guaranteed money of $170 of that $212. So that's a high level of guarantees. Zach, I will send you to the chat. Lots of comments flying in here on Facebook and on YouTube. We need people like the show. Hit that like button for us, please. But what are people saying about what Levis needs to do this season to keep pace? Not saying he's going to earn the contract after this season, but to keep pace with earning a contract down the road.
Let's see. Show progress. That's from Titans Kyle. Daniel says 9 wins, playoff wins, 30 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 8+ wins, a division win. I would probably maybe pluralize that. Maybe that's what Denise was saying is division wins. Those are valuable because that's the easiest way to make the playoffs is by winning your division. And that helps. And you play those teams twice a year. Rooney says 9 wins, health and consistency. Eric's just participation. We're just trying to have fun right here.
Yeah, just have fun.
Let's see here. 3,500 yards, 20+ touchdowns, below 10 interceptions from Tighten Up Ohio, 4,000 yards from Just Smash, winning record and staying healthy. Will this team to a playoff spot right there from Alex, a winning record, just improved from last season, 30 touchdowns. Jody says show ability, 4K plus 10 wins. Lead them to the playoffs, be the guy who puts them in the playoffs from Mason. Nothing but a 7th seed. Have more playoff wins than losses.
Hey, guys, like, are we getting, we're talking about this year. Like, again, like I see Jeffrey win the division. We're seeing a lot of comments that you're reading are saying win playoff games. We're talking about this year, 1 year. What does Will Levis have to do this season to keep pace? The Titans were dead last in the AFC South by a lot last year. We're talking about this year. I see a lot of people say more playoff games and playoff losses. That sounds like a multi-year goal there. So I don't know. People are getting this.
And I'll admit, that's how I thought about this question. And I can answer both of them. But we're sitting here talking about Jared Goff and what he's done over the last couple of years. It all came to fruition after this past season, right?
But again, read the question.
No, I see what the question says. But again, we set this up as Jared Goff. I can answer both questions. I have
that's fine.
Both sides of it. But I think that's where the chat is coming in, defending the chat a little bit. 3-1 touchdown to interception ratio right there. A wild card game. 2,800 yards, 14 touchdowns, and less than 9 interceptions for Porkington, so lowering the bar a little bit. Availability, which we've seen a lot throughout the chat, says from Maven, 3,100 yards and game management, 4K yards, 30 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and 10-plus wins this season.
That would be insane.
Yeah, and
that would be,
and that's why I think that the question needs a little bit more diagnosing, because he's not going to get a contract after this season. No, you're talking about keeping pace, but pace doesn't happen until it actually happens.
Well, again,
years down the road, which has got however long.
Right. NFL rules: rookie players under rookie contracts cannot have contract extension eligibility until after their third year, right? So whatever Will Levis does this season does not change if he's getting a contract extension after this season. He has at least 2 more seasons that he must play before he's eligible for an extension going into year 4. So again, I feel like the question is pretty clear. Is what does Will Levis need to show this season?
It may not be the right question, because if you talk about the contract, that is, you are rewarded based on a line of work, not one season.
Obviously. That's why the keep pace is in the question, Zach. Right? Like that's the whole point of it. That's why I push back is no one cares about that, because at the end of the day,
Austin, I'll tell you, he could have a crappy year this year and come back and win the division the following year and still earn the contract. That's the point.
But you're not.
He literally, they could win 5 games this year and he could play okay, but they're not willing to move off of him completely. And so in year 3, he comes in there and he has a dynamo season. He's back on pace.
He can still
I think the point.
I guess my point is that Will Levis doesn't equal wins. Like, I'm just saying, it does, wins are not quarterback stats all the time. The Titans can miss the playoffs for a 3rd straight year, and Will Levis can still keep pace to earning another deal because the Titans are a first-year head coach. They've rebuilt a lot of the roster. There's a lot of newness, and they're still working towards something. But Will Levis as an individual can still keep pace towards that contract, even if the Titans are 6-11 again.
But do you understand what I'm saying is that doesn't matter. Keeping pace doesn't matter. Barring a unfortunate injury, he could have a bad year this year, still get an opportunity the following year, and earn a contract. That's the point.
Okay. So, all right, I will answer the question on what I think Will Levis needs to show this season to keep pace to earning a quarterback contract, right? It's not tied to the Titans' overall wins and losses or playoff hopes. I'm talking about Will Levis, the actual quarterback. I think he has to start over 13 games or more. So starting 13 games or more, he has to have over 20 touchdowns passing and at least 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. So that means if he's got 20 touchdown passes, he can have 10 or less interceptions, right? At least a 2-to-1 TD to INT ratio with 20 plus touchdown passes and starting at least 13 games. I think those 3 things, it's a parlay. It's not 1 leg or 2 legs or 3 legs. If he can do all 3 of those things, I like where his trajectory is. It doesn't mean he's earned it yet, but he's in striking distance in year 3 to earn it fully to get a quarterback contract that who knows if it's going to be $50 million per year or what. But the 3-leg parlay for a Will Levis season this year to keep pace, to hit that checkpoint on his trajectory, start at least 13 games, at least 20 touchdown passes, and at least a 2-to-1 TD to INT ratio. Those are my 3-leg parlays for Will Levis this season.
Okay, so I'm going to answer both of the questions because I think we're going to get off into another conversation that is a little bit broader, which I think is more warranted and more valued. But I will answer the singular question that we asked, which is, what does he need to do to keep pace? Realistically, it's pretty simple. Play all 17 games, and if he wins 7 games, he's keeping pace. He could win 6 games, to be honest, to keep pace. But if you play all 17 and you are healthy and you're not getting rolled up on and turning your ankle and you win 6 to 7 games, I don't care. You're keeping pace. Because it kind of goes back to what I originally said is it truly doesn't fully matter what you do this year. You can't be complete trashola, okay? Sure. You can't be like terrible and get pulled. Like you can't do that. We all know that. But just to keep pace, you actually just have to do very minimal. Like that's where the Titans are within the nature of their roster build to eventually make a push for the playoffs and a Super Bowl. And we all know that that's years down the road. But if he plays all 17 games and wins 7 games, Austin, would you sign up for that?
I think you're continuing to hit checkpoints for data because there's other issues.
Well,
right?
That's what it answers your singular question they created, which is to keep pace this season. Absolutely keep pace. I think winning 6 games and having a losing record, right? I mean, this is a losing record. It still keeps pace. That's why I think that we tweak the question as we divulge into the conversation.
Yeah, Jason says if he wins 6 or 7 games, that's a disappointment. But we don't know. Like it's not up. Like Will Levis cannot by himself win every game. There's so many other variables. Brian Callahan is doing something he's never done before, calling plays. He's a head coach for the first time, but he's also calling plays in a game for the first time. So there's so many different things surrounding Will Levis that are new that need to take time. And that I'm guessing September is going to be fairly ugly, right? Like we'll find out the schedule tomorrow night, which is exciting, but it might be ugly in September. It might take 5 to 6 weeks for them to get it to click. And then it's just overall, what are you looking at Will Levis and how can you analyze him within the results to find out if he is the guy or not?
Well, and Kenneth says, no, Zach, he has to win at least 7 games, winning or preferably 9 or 10. I mean, you're kind of saying what I'm saying. Like, yes, you would prefer him win 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, go undefeated, right? Like you'd prefer that. But guys, realistically, the Titans are picked to be at the bottom of the barrel of the league, okay? They're supposed to be bad. Now, that doesn't always end up being true, but if Will Levis wins 7 games and plays every single game, this is my point. He earns another season as a starting quarterback. And now you're on pace to have more opportunity with more money, more draft picks, more offseason to improve the roster of the team after you've kind of gotten to 0 back in January, right? And you're building up from that. That's why the question has nuance to it. And I don't think it's the perfect question. I'm going to get to the range because I do believe the real question is analyzing Will Levis of what does he have to do from now of what we don't know much about him until he gets the contract, right? Because Jared Goff did that. When he was traded from LA to Detroit, from that singular point to what he did now, he earned the $200 million he just got paid.
No doubt. Let's look at Jared Goff's numbers, right? So in his first season in Detroit, Jared Goff played 14 games. He only threw 19 touchdowns, but 8 interceptions. So he hit 2 of my 3 legs in the Will Levis parlay. He missed the 20 touchdowns, but he had a 2-to-1 TD INT ratio and played over 13 games. So, but in year 2 and year 3, Jared Goff has played in 34 consecutive games in the regular season for the Lions. So he's not gotten hurt. He's been
Huge.
available big time, right? And then he has averaged over 265 yards a game passing in the last 2 years. He's thrown 29 and 30 touchdowns in the last 2 years to 7 and 12 interceptions. So 30 touchdowns, 12 picks a year ago, over 4,500 yards. That's nearly 270 yards per game passing, and has been obviously a legit player for the Lions to go to the NFC title game after winning the division, and he earned $170 million guaranteed, 212 overall over 4 years.
So let's talk about how they did that, because the structure and the construction of the Lions NFC Championship appearing team this past year, pretty by the book of what you need to do to build a team. They went and got a quarterback. They got Jared Goff. They tried to surround him with pieces. Well, first of all, they drafted a trending all-pro, unbelievable offensive lineman, right? They didn't go
linemen, plural, all five starters from the Lions are drafted, and a lot of them are first-round picks.
So they addressed that first and foremost. They surrounded him with, look, let's call it space. Josh Reynolds improved when he went to Detroit from Tennessee, mind you. Amon St. Brown has been, Ross St. Brown has been unbelievable, right? The emergence of what they drafted, Jameson Williams, and he hasn't really even done anything because of
hurt. Yeah, he was
injury,
hurt,
right?
And then suspended for
injury and trouble. So, and then what did they went from TJ Hawkinson, they got rid of him, and they got Sam Laporta. They got a reliable resource that Jared Goff uses, and Jared Goff uses all of these because he plays. He consistently is on the field, So the recipe of, that's just the offense, right? The recipe of the Detroit Lions offense makes a lot of sense. And you know what? Besides Sam Laporta, the Titans are kind of doing the same thing, at least starting out around Will Levis, addressing the offensive line and just kind of reconstructing it, going out and getting playmakers on top of guys they already had. And then now I would assume next year they're going to continue to draft and improve that wide receiving core. And what are they going to do with tight end? Chig, this is a wait and see year for Chig. Mm-hmm. We're going to have to wait and see what Chig actually is within an offense. Is he just kind of like he is what he is? Or can he actually make some plays and be a part of this offense? And if he can, now I think the floodgates open up.
Yeah, for sure. I know you've got something else you want to get to, and I do as well. I've got something where math is not somebody's strong suit in the chat this morning, so I'll get to that. But first, Zach, tell everybody about our great friends at Farm Bureau Health Plans.
Yeah, FBHP.com/A to Z is where to go if you need some a health plan. Look, I needed a health plan a few years ago. I took a look. I said, look, this is going to be a lot better off if I switch my plan, because Farm Bureau Health Plans of Tennessee has helped Tennesseans all across the state. 200 plus location. They've got agents all over the state, as I mentioned. Health, dental, and vision. You go, you get a health assessment. They do the health assessment. Then they give you a quote, and then you make the decision. They're trusted and partner with reputable brands like the Tennessee Titans, like the Nashville Predators, like the Tennessee Volunteers, like A to Z Sports. That's Farm Bureau Health Plans of Tennessee. They are outstanding, and they can help you individually or you and your family. Make sure you visit them online today at fbhp.com/A to Z.
And with BetMGM, you can always win big with BetMGM. Enjoy all your favorite sports like never before. At BetMGM, sign up using our bonus code ATOZ Sports and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. When you register with BetMGM, you get instant access to a variety of parlay selection features, live betting options, the best daily promotions in the business. And with BetMGM at your fingertips, every play and every game matter more than ever. Remember, use our code ATOZ Sports and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older. Tennessee only. New customer offer. Subject to qualification and other requirements. Rewards issued are knowledgeable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. A gambling problem, call Tennessee Redline at 800-889-9789. So we're talking through this conversation today. Jared Goff gets $53 million per year with the Lions for a contract extension. And I said, and we're talking through what Will Levis has to do this season to keep pace towards something like that. I have a 3-leg parlay for Will Levis on the football field. And he has to hit all 3, right? That's how the parlays work. Play at least 13 games, have at least 20 touchdown passes, and at least a 2-to-1 touchdown to INT ratio. IR comes in and says, according to Austin's 2-to-1 ratio, if Levis throws 30 touchdowns, you're okay with him throwing 20 interceptions? No, because that loses my parlay, because that's not how ratios work. That would be a 1.5-to-1 TD to INT ratio, or a 3-to-2 if you just move the decimal over. IR, I would be okay if Will Levis threw 30 touchdown passes if he had 15 picks, because picks happen. There's a story to every interception for the most part. And if Will Levis throws 30 touchdowns, I think he gets some wiggle room for throwing 15 interceptions. Hell, your boy Jameis several years ago went 30 for 30, went 1-to-1 TD to INT, and went 30-30 club for the first time in NFL history. But I would think 30 touchdown passes and 15 picks for Levis would be a phenomenal year too, considering Goff just went 30-12 last year.
Yeah, I mean, you're magnifying 30, which you should.
Yeah,
that means you're scoring points and your offense is different. You sacrifice the 15 picks or whatever because your offense is not the Derrick Henry, Chris Johnson, Eddie George offense anymore. Like you've now leveled up and modernized, as we talked about. This team has got to modernize. 30 touchdowns, and that's what How many did he throw? 33. How many did
Tannehill?
Yeah,
he threw 33 in 2020.
That was the most modern offense that this team has seen ever, right?
Yeah, and Tannehill ran for 7 that year. He scored. He was accountable for 40 touchdowns in 16 games in 2020, which is also the same year that Derek ran for 2K.
And they
crazy
lost
numbers.
to Baltimore in the first round.
I know. Because Arthur Smith was distracted about his coaching interview with the Jags afterwards. Same day coaching interview of a wild card playoff game.
No,
I will never get over that.
That was the one that Corey Davis was nowhere to be found in the second half.
Corey Davis got a hip injury at halftime, and Arthur Smith was thinking about his interview with the Jags 3 hours later. Again, I don't understand how a coach schedules and head coaching interview after a playoff game. Like, that is just beyond me of how that happens. Obviously that's going to be a distraction. Anyway, so Zach, I have a follow-up question to you, but I know you've got something planned as well.
Well, is your follow-up question regarding what we're just talking about?
Yes, it regards Will Levis.
Then go ahead.
All right. So we've seen in the way too early 2025 NFL mock drafts, the Titans getting a quarterback a lot from national pundits. What does Will Levis have to do this year for that to not happen? Right? I think that's a different way to ask the question, right? What does Will Levis have to prove for draft media to not mock the Titans, Shedeur Sanders or Carson Beck in the top 10 of 2025's draft? Because look, the odds of them picking top 10 might be fairly high because of the situation.
So one thing that does matter is Brian Callahan's the head coach. He works with the quarterback. He did not pick Will Levis. Totally. Now, Brian Callahan has also had the luxury of working with number 1 overall picks, the best of the best, from Matthew Stafford to Peyton Manning to Joe Burrow. Like, not everybody gets that luxury. Some people are working with Dan Orlovsky, right? So
he did work with Derek Carr, which is basically Will Levis. Derek Carr was like the earliest of second-round pick quarterbacks, and
and we know Derek Carr's ceiling. It's not as high. Injury will save some job for a period of time. After a while, it won't. I think Will Levis, we know that was not his fault last year that he got hurt.
Right.
But for the Titans to be in a quarterback situation next year, I think he's just got to be disastrous. He has to have like a interception problem, a fumble problem, doing things that hurt the team. And I think it's going to be really hard. And that's why I don't look at those crap ass way too early mock drafts. I don't, because
if you're not clicking on them, somebody is.
I'm not saying, look, they're there for a reason.
With that thing.
The prostitutes are there for a reason. They're not for me. I don't use them. But
okay, fair point.
For way too early mock drafts, they don't truly know the ins and outs of the Titans either. They also don't know who they're going to pick. They also don't know who's going to emerge in college for this past year. Yep, so it's stupid. It's a fantasy. That's what.
For the record, Travis May of A2Z Sports does not have the Titans picking a quarterback in the top 10 of the 2025 draft, right?
And again, there's a place for everything. So that's fine. But I think he's got to have like a problem, like a fumbling problem, a interception problem, and he's got to have to get pulled for Mason Rudolph, and Mason Rudolph does exponentially better than he does, because you now have an experienced backup quarterback that could come in with better pieces and win some games. I'm going to speak about a guy who honestly has done that recently and has kind of changed the trajectory, I think, of his career. So, like, it can happen, but I think the odds of that happening, Austin, are probably at 5%.
Yeah, I still think Will Levis is going to have a legitimately like very good year for, if the Titans are in the top 10, there will be mock drafters thinking the Titans will go for a quarterback or be in play for a quarterback because Callahan did not draft Levis. I just think there's going to be, if the Titans are in the top 10, that's going to happen regardless if Will Levis is at fault or not, like last year.
Okay, so that goes into what I want to bring up, because it's funny, Austin, you brought this topic to the table in our pre-show meeting, and I coincidentally saw a graphic this morning that fit right in, and that's why my mind was more towards the chat. What is Will Levis going to have to do to earn a contract? Like, that's the question. What does he have to do to earn Jared Goff's contract? It's not in 1 year. It's not in just 1.5 years. It's in from when he is drafted to when he has the opportunity to earn the contract, which is 3 years, right? You said that earlier. That's minimum.
Yeah.
He's got 4 years on his deal. That's more realistic because they're going to take advantage of that last year. But Austin, the cold hard truth of this is that Will Levis doesn't have to do all that much. Maybe all he has to do is what Trevor Lawrence has done, which is not very good, but has made a playoff game, won a playoff game, almost made a playoffs last year, but got beat by the Tennessee Titans, as we saw in Nissan Stadium. But look at Gardner Minshew. We talked about Mason Rudolph, a backup doing more with his backup role. Look at this, passing TDs. Man. That's 2 seasons Gardner Minshew as a starter. Trevor Lawrence, 3 seasons as a starter. Very close passing touchdowns, more interceptions. The quarterback rating is less for Lawrence, and that's a sample size of 49 and 50 games. Now, Trevor Lawrence has the benefit of being the number 1 overall pick. That carries some weight. It gets a 5th-year option, whatever that is. But Austin, I'll ask you this. Do you think Trevor Lawrence will get a contract extension?
Yes.
That's the point.
But it's like, what level of it? Like, I don't think Trevor Lawrence
but that's the industry.
Trevor Lawrence will not get Trevor Lawrence. He's got what? Is he going into year 4? Yeah, right.
He's going into year 4. He has a year 5 in 2025.
They just picked up a 5th-year option. So this year, obviously, is his contract year that will determine whether he's going to get $50 million a year on average, or maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 with less guaranteed, and the Jags have an opportunity to get out after 3 years or something.
Well, he's got 5. He's got a 5th year, so he'll have that opportunity to earn.
My point is, I believe I believe that his contract extension value will be determined by this season, because I don't think the Jags are going to go into 2025 on the 5th-year option without extending him like the Titans did with Mariota. I don't think the Jags are doing that. I think they will extend him before the 2025 season, and this upcoming year will determine the money dollar value to it. Now, one thing, throw that graphic up again because I'm confused by something, if you can. I don't understand how, I guess, 2 seasons as a starter for Gardner Minshew, but 49 games. I guess he was with the Jags for longer than 2 years as a starter, but he played in 49 games. That's the one thing I'm slightly thrown off by. The numbers are still better, right? 59 touchdowns to 24 is better than 58 to 39. But the games played is basically the same in less years as a starter. So that's where I'm slightly thrown off.
Yeah, well, I think for what Trevor Lawrence represents as, how would you describe Trevor Lawrence so far in his career?
Underwhelming? But again,
Will Levis, no, stop. If Will Levis does the same thing that Trevor Lawrence has done, which is win a playoff game and get to the cusp of a playoff game and lose. Now, disappointed, but he's made the playoffs and won a playoff game. There's some value. We think about Trevor Lawrence differently because he's the number 1 overall pick, right?
Yes. And
so if he was a 2nd round pick, I think we think about him differently. Totally. I think you think of Will Levis, if you put him in that same scenario, you would say he's probably average, not above average, but not a disappointment.
I think I think it's the year by year trajectory, because I don't necessarily hold the Urban Meyer year against Trevor Lawrence. Like I have to give Trevor Lawrence a pass to an extent because Urban Meyer was a disaster. That culture was a disaster, and you snap and clear. Doug Peterson came in. Year 2 was great. That's when they won the division, won a home playoff game, right? That's positive. But year 3 was a regression. And so I think it's that aspect of, it's not linear, right? So it was a positive, then a regression. If Will Levis can go last year, starting 9 games under Mike Vrabel, having bright spots but incomplete, to positive in year 2 to positive in year 3, and his numbers equal Trevor Lawrence, then it's the upward climb rather than Levis going up.
If he has a regression one year and misses the playoff? The regression was the last game of the season. The Jags, if they win, they make the playoffs.
Yeah, but
it's one game.
Lawrence was also banged up with a shoulder. Like there was some gross, not super clean play at times.
But what I'm saying is, we look at Trevor Lawrence. Look, you are what your results are. But Austin, ifs and buts, beers and nuts. If Trevor Lawrence beats the Titans and makes the playoffs for the 2nd year in a row, he gets the $50 million contract.
That's what I just said. I said, year 4 determines the value of his deal.
But no, I'm saying is that one game probably could have cost him $50 million if you think about it, because now he's a back-to-back playoff quarterback. He has an opportunity to build. Who knows what happens, right? But the bar is lowering for the amount of money. Because let's say he doesn't get $53 million, but he gets 45. Like Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is an example. That guy's not worth 10, but they paid him.
Daniel Jones, on average, he is not a top 10 paid quarterback. Josh Allen is the 10th highest paid quarterback, and Patrick Mahomes is the 9th highest paid quarterback on average annual value at $43 and $45 million. And then guys ahead of those two, Kirk Cousins, Deshaun Watson, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Jared Goff, Joe Burrow. So obviously timing is everything. But I don't think Trevor Lawrence is going to get, at this point, I would net bet on him being the next $50 million per year quarterback.
I would say that his opportunity to, if he makes the playoffs and he loses in the first round, he gets the contract. Look, the bar is lowering.
And you said something. You said something earlier about Goff. They paid him 53 years because it's Detroit. Like Detroit's kind of have to do that. Like Jacksonville is kind of the same way. They got to do it.
All
just like the Titans, Just like the Titans had to do it with Tannehill, right? Like the Titans had to do that. Go look at Jared Goff's numbers the last 3 years. They're basically Ryan Tannehill type numbers. And
well, they could have tried for Tom Brady a little harder, but they did.
Right. But Tannehill went to the AFC Championship game, had really good numbers. The Titans paid him $29 million a year. This is 4-ish years ago. So very different from inflation. But Jared Goff and Tannehill had similar numbers in their best years as Lions/Titans quarterbacks overall. So I still stand strong by, I think Will Levis, if he hits my 3-leg parlay of 13 games played at least 20 touchdown passes, and at least a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, I think that's a very, very good pace for Will Levis to grow from year 1 to year 2, to have a really exciting year 3, to see what the Titans can do from that.
But on the minimum, if he plays all the games and only wins 6 of them, he's okay.
Sure. Notice I didn't have wins in my parlay, because I don't necessarily, when I'm analyzing Will Levis individually, I don't think it's fair to attach wins to him because of all the variables and newness around this organization.
When will you be ready to attach wins to him?
Year 3.
Okay.
Is that
Because
fine?
it's really year
3 of him, which is year 2 with Callahan, year 2 as a full-time starter, year 2 with the
it's
whole
really
thing.
year 1.5, right? Because you started.
Because you know what that means? In 2025, Will Levis will have something for the first time he's never had since high school. The same play caller back-to-back years.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how he does in year 1.
All right. I've got some positive shade. That usually doesn't happen on Tuesdays, but we'll throw shade here to wrap up the show. If you've got shade, send it in the chat. Here we go. To our friends at Wilson County Hyundai, wilsoncountyhyundai.com is where to go. Make them a part of your new car buying process. When you've got to get a new ride, go check out our friend Payne Bone and his team in Lebanon. Save some money. wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Throwing shade to wrap up a Tuesday like we usually do. So shade in the chat. Zach, I will start by my shade update. A few weeks ago, I can't remember. Time doesn't make sense at some point. Maybe a month. I threw shade on grocery shopping apps for not allowing me to buy a number of certain products, but a weight of certain products, right? I want 5 apples. I don't want 2.5 pounds of apples, because that could be 3 apples.
Now I'm curious about this, because I didn't have that same experience.
I did. And if I wanted bananas, I want 3 or 4 bananas. I don't want 1 pound of bananas, because that doesn't mean a damn thing, because I'm not going to eat a pound of banana, even if that's 1.5 or whatever, right? I want the item number. And guess what happened? Yesterday, Monday's my grocery order day. Sitting down there, going through the list, punching in the things on the app. And guess what? I hit the apples, my Honeycrisp. That's it. Honeycrisp apple or bust. And I hit the up button, and it started to give me a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instead of a 1.5, 2.5 pounds, so on and so forth. So they fixed it. Then I went to bananas. I wanted 3 bananas. I was able to select 3 bananas, not 1.5 pounds of bananas.
What's your grocery store?
Instacart is what I use. So
it's Instacart. Yeah. That's the software.
Yes. So, but that has been updated since I threw, like, last week. Within the last week, because last Monday when I ordered groceries, I had to click in like 2.25 pounds of apples. But yesterday, 5 apples, and I got 5 apples. So my shade has been redeemed.
There you go. Well, hey, that's a positive.
There you go. More shade. You got some shade in the chat you want to get to?
Let's see. Anson shade, hockey shade. Shade on refs in Boston for not calling goaltender interference. It's a pretty consistent, playoff complaint, right? There's always that one goaltender interference that could result in a huge shift in a series or game. Ethan's throwing shade at Post Malone and Morgan Wallen, teasing their song for 2 months. And then when it comes out, it's not the same as the teasers. different song. Let's see here. Shade on businesses that only take cash. Get with the times, losers. I agree with that, Jake.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. Tiffany says shade to Nate's burner count. It'll always be 70-30 in my favor. So dominance there in the chat.
Sure, sounds good. I have no
Devin
idea what
says,
that represents.
shade at my back. I threw it out last night and tried to walk away from the wall while my heating pad was plugged in. I'll let y'all figure it out how that worked out for me. So, Devin, we hope your back improves. Back struggle is real and it's not fun. No. Steven says, shade on my cat taking a okay, we don't need to know that. That is one thing that I don't play with. I don't care about your pet's crap. Okay.
Bathroom humor is not Zach's thing.
Stop talking about it. Yeah. It's stupid. Here's my shade. Boom. Now you just got me fired up. You're not 4 years old. Okay. And that's usually how 4-year-olds act, is that they say, oh, poopy, pappy, poopy, pap. Like that's not funny. Like and I've had that happen. We were talking to a kid. It's like, you're doo-doo. Like, no, that's not funny. Like, that's funny to you because you're 4 years old. It's not funny to grown people. So nobody cares about your pet or you as a human having to do what everybody has to do to live life. Drink water, eat food, and repeat the process. So there's shade right there. Danny says shade on the fact that only a couple weeks of turkey season left, and I still haven't gotten to go yet. Things keep coming up and getting in the way. Let's see here. Anthony says, I'll make this shade as short as I can. Shade on Little League umpires who expand the zone outside by an inch or two and claim they're consistent. I want you to call the game per the rules. I don't care if you make mistakes. Don't be consistently wrong.
Man, how about that? Throwing shade on Little League umpires. That is something I usually am on the opposite side of things. Like Anthony, really been out of shape by this Little League ump. I don't know when this game was played, Anthony, but it's definitely sitting with you for multiple days.
Here, we'll say this because this is a learning lesson, all right? Katie says, I'm throwing shade on my sister because my dad passed away and she's trying to keep all the money and not giving his 8 other kids none. I will say this. Look, everyone has a family dynamic, okay? My dad told me that as a young kid, and he's like, you're going to grow up and you're going to experience different families, friends, relationship families. Every family has a different dynamic. And so that is always a testy thing when people pass away. Make sure you try to get organized while they're alive. I know that sometimes that's difficult to do, but that is Katie's got a dynamic right there.
Damn, I was not expecting that.
No.
It's an intense shade.
Abdul says, Shane shade. On my shade, but it says Shane.
Shade on.
Shade or for my God, Abdul, you don't get this if you can't spell it correctly. We move on. Let's see here. Yeah, well, look, I stole a little bit of shade. I said I sprinkled some shade earlier about Nashville and just what this housing market represents. It is what it is. If you want to live in the place, you got to pay to play. But sometimes the houses are ridiculous. But my true shade was diaper talk earlier. So I'll stick with that. And
there we go.
That's what I have to say.
All right, that'll do it for us on this Tuesday. Tomorrow, Wednesday, Jack and I back on here going through trivia, and we'll see what happens in the Titans land. We got schedules coming out in just about 30 hours from now, so buckle up from that. Titans schedules this week. Maybe we'll do a little prediction tomorrow morning on the show, but that'll be it for us. I got to get our guy King VC in here because he's not here to watch the show. He says won't be able to stay for the show due to work, but I want to say like the show. So shout out to King VC. So hit that like button for us on the way out. That goes a long way for us on Facebook and on YouTube. So please like the show before you go. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also follow the Facebook page. And we'll be back tomorrow. Buck Rising live tonight at 7 p.m. Central. And we'll see you guys tomorrow on a Wednesday. Appreciate it as always.
Adios.